Well, there ain't much altered in the village. The village is the same now as it was, well, ever since I can remember, isn't it? There's no difference in it.
There is some.
Only a few new houses put up.
Well, that's something.
Yeah, well, how many? Only, in the Perrys.
These on top of the hill, there's a big thatched barn up here, lawn.
Oh, yes, out at the corner there used to be a thatch barn. And years ago, I've heard Dad say that there used to be houses in the churchyard. And where you put your bicycle the other night, that used to be a pond up there, a big pond. And they used to call that Lower Ash Farm. Well, that's right, Lower Ash Farm they used to call the barn. And to go down about 8, well, I had to be there by 8. Yours used to say to me, "Driving it late this morning, ain't you?" And I used to say, "No, Dad, I ain't driving it late." He used to say, "It's only 8 o'clock." Oh, he says, "I thought it was later than that." And I said, "No." I used to give him his breakfast and clean up, light his fire and clean up. And I used to come back and prepare our dinners. And I used to put Dad's out for he, and used to take his down in the basin or pie dish, take his dinner down to he, and give him his dinner. And I used to wait till he had his dinner and used to wash up. And I used to come home here and clear away my own dinner and wash up. If he had a cold or anything, I used to say to him, "Oh, I should stop in bed today, Dad, if I was you." "Do you want to do that?" "Oh, yes," I said, "you can." And if I thought his cold was worse, and I used to say to him, "Stay in bed, Dad," I said. "I'll get the doctor, and then he'll give you a bottle of medicine." I said, "Perhaps that'll soon clear it up." "Don't want that," he said. And I said, "Oh, yes, you can." And they always says, "He ain't coming. I'm going to get up." "No," I used to say, "you stay there, Dad. He'll soon be here." Well, he wasn't long before he came. Then he used to say, "But I think you better stay with him." So I used to stay with him all night, right up till 6 o'clock the next morning. I used to stop up all night. But he used to be all right. It was a bit of a job to stay up, though, night times, because it was in the middle of the winter. We never had no summer to it. It was at a cold. It was always in the winter.
Tidy and that. But after we'd done that, well, we used to keep a lot of chicken. And then when the horses went, I looked after the chicken and dry cattle and all
Dry
that
cattle?
in the yard, yes.
Yeah. What do you mean
well,
by
young,
dry cattle?
young cattle.
Ah.
All the young
They're
stuff.
not for dairy stuff.
Oh.
It's getting ready to come in to the dairy.
That sounds a very full-time job to me.
It was. Well, and then between that, after I'd done the cattle in the morning, I used to go and have a bit of breakfast at about 8:30. And I used to go back and start up the grinding 9 o'clock.
Grinding?
Yes, for grinding the oats and well, we used to buy cakes in slabs then. Up recently they come out in nuts and that, you know. Well, we had to grind all that up, mix it up, weigh it out, so many pounds each animal. Well, I had to do that for the dairy cows and all the dry cattle that I had, and if there was any out in the sheds anyway.
Well, you generally used to let it lie and then turn it over and then in about a few days pick it up.
Ah,
when you used to cut it loose, and then of course you got the binder and that used to bind it, and so you used to stand it up in stooks, and then after it stood for wheat for about a week or 10 days, oats about 3 weeks, and you used to pick them up, stack them, and you used to have the thresher, and they was all done by combine.
Yeah, yeah.
So it saved all that hard work like we used to have to do.
And do you reckon that times are better than they were, or worse? On the land?
Well, the times are better on the land, I suppose. I don't see why not.
No.
Of course, we always done it the hard way, and we was happy enough in it, and that. And I suppose the younger people today, of course, is all out of their fear now.
Yes. But do you find that people are happier?
No.
You're convinced they're not?
No, I don't think they're happier than we were. I don't know, or else there wouldn't be all this here juvenile delinquents, would there?
No, that's true. No.
You know, if they was happy, we never used to have none of that. We used to be hard work and used to go out in the field and have a game of cricket or something of that, and for just a little recreation. People want cars and always roaming about all over the place.
Yes.
Never satisfied.
No, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because where they've been there, they want to go somewhere else, and eventually they tire out. They don't know where they want to go.
That's true, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Used to have get up in the morning about 5 o'clock and get them in, feed them, clean them down, ready for 7 o'clock, out to work on the line, up to break for lunch, and then an hour for dinner, and then was in about 4 o'clock to clean them down, finish them up for the day. Yeah, and that's about right too.
How do you plough?
Oh, and had a one-wheel plough. Used to reckon to do acre a day. That was a day's work for a man for plough, acre a day. 2 horses, up and down the field all day.
What plough like?
Oh, wooden one-wheel plough, wooden plough. Yes. What they called L2, Canning's L2 plough. That was the name on them. Yes.
And what was
Well, you started a rick the usual way. Most times I always started mine in the middle. I put just like a shock in the middle, half a dozen sheaves, and then built it around it and laid the ears up on top so the butts of the sheaves touched the ground, or the steddle, whichever it was on, if there was a steddle made of hedge trimmings, faggots or anything like that to keep it off the ground. If it was put in like a shock, or a stook, some people call it, and you put that into the middle, and then built around it and put the ears on top, it was all the butts down on the ground. And then you got the outside of your rick, the size you wanted it, and then you gradually went on upwards until you got to the top. To be a good rick builder, you wanted to keep it just about level until you got towards the eaves, and when you got up towards the eaves, you wanted to bring the middle up, fill it up so that it tipped outwards. And then your roof was tipping out all the time, and the water, well, it's really a job to explain just how you laid them. But if you knew how to lay them for the roof, you could put it so that the water, every butt turned outwards, and the water would soak out. Because you can't really explain just how to do it. You want to do the job, and then you find out how. But you do see some people building the roof of a rick, and instead of putting it outwards, they seem afraid to tip them outwards because they're going to think they're going to slip, and they put them inwards. And then the water, if it does get in, it goes towards the middle of the rick instead of going outwards.
Well, when I was in the pit, we was told by the surveyor that we was now right out underneath Nuneaton Church.
And so, of course, we carried on and carried on. And I carried on there until I was called up for the army. Then I had to go in the army. Then I went back again, and of course my nerves wasn't too good, and so my mate said, well, Bill, he says, if I was you, mate, he says, I should get out of this, he says, before you get hurt. So, of course, I took him to his word. But during that time, there was ponies working in the pit, which was, of course, a very lively concern. Some of the ponies was very spiteful. They'd come at you open mouth, or otherwise, if you got anywhere as numb, I said they would slam out, and you'd get kicked. And of course, that was the main thing of the haulage business in those days. A lot of ponies working in the pit. Great fun, great pleasure, as regards work, but that was pretty hard and tough. And sometimes when you was in the face, the collier was pecking the coal. You was tramming, going out getting first the tub and taking it in the stall and helping fill and help get. Perhaps when you got back, he'd say, well, I'm in the dark. We had oil lamps in those days. So you better lend me your lamp. So, of course, we had to work then, one lamp, and, of course, being so used to the stall, that you could find your own road and keep your head well down so you didn't knock it on the roof or the bars and go through the bradish. And when you got out on the pass by, well, of course, there was some more trammers out there waiting for empties or going in with them, and then there was the pony boys out there with their lamps so you could see quite plain where you was there. And then, of course, the pony boy would hook the limbers onto the tub, which was coupled up by a pin. He carried his own shafts himself, the pony. And he would couple him up with about half a dozen tubs behind him, and away he'd go. He'd jump on the back tub, and the pony'd take him right to the doors in the dark, no light. And the pony knowed exactly where to go, and he knowed where the doors was, the airtight doors, and he'd knock them open with his head and take the pony boy right to the pit bottom with the young couple and come back in again for another load.